Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about how to start a fire in wet conditions. As you can see, it's raining right now. Everything around me is completely drenched. So obviously we're not going to be able to start a fire right here in the middle of the rain. We're going to have to find us a place that's going to be got some kind of a cover over it. If you've got like a tarp or something, which is what I'm going to be using today, we're going to start a fire under it. We're going to go ahead and gather us up some wood, but I'll show you what kind of wood to look for. Just keep watching, guys. Alright guys, as you can see, we got my shelter set up. This is just a tarp. You can use whatever you want to. I prefer to use my tarp just because it's readily available. It's in my backpack at all times. So I've already got it set up, and I made sure that it is pulled nice and tight. And I made sure that I had the roof up at an angle. That way the wire will just roll right off the back. You want to make sure it's tight so you don't have to worry about any pulling in the center. That's important. But we're going to go ahead and gather up all of our material, and we're going to start our fire right here in the center. Just keep watching, guys. We'll be right back. Look what we got here, guys. Looks like somebody hacked into this pine tree here. And we're actually going to take this and use this to start our fire today. It's going to make our job a little bit easier. I was actually looking for some pine sap out here because I'm in the middle of the pine forest and all. Alright guys, I managed to find a piece of fat wood here too. Found it a little bit further up the trail, but you can see that discoloration in that wood. That dark red color. Alright guys, we got here is just a bunch of dead pine needles. You can actually use this stuff pretty easily to start a fire. You just want to remember to, when you pick this stuff up off the wet ground, you just want to put it in your pockets so that your body heat can kind of dry it off. It doesn't hold moisture super well, but every little bit helps. So you just want to keep these in your pockets, let it dry off, and you want to remember to just get the dead stuff off the top. You don't want to get this stuff that's buried into the ground, the really rotted stuff. That's not going to work. You want this type of stuff that's just the dead pine needles that are laying on top of the ground, on top of everything else. Gone ahead and gathered up a pretty good sized handful. We're going to put this in my coat and let it dry off. And then we're going to use this. We're actually going to add our pine to this, our pine sap. It's going to act as a bit of an extender to make the flame last a bit longer. A good spot to find fuel for your fire is really under anything that's kind of got like a natural roof to it. Things like caves and, falling over old trees like we got here. You can see it's just falling over, but there's a bunch of debris that has been caught up underneath it. Everything is completely drenched out here except for what's underneath that fallen over log. And it's got a bunch of dead leaves, there's twigs and sticks. Everything we need to start a little bit of a fire and to get one going anyways. So we're going to go ahead and gather this up, and we're going to add it to what we're going to make our fire with here in a little while. You can see, here's a better look at it. See all that dry material up in there. See the dirt still dry and everything. Here's another good source for tinder. This is just some dead grass. It's really wet right now, but this stuff doesn't actually hold water that well. You can actually just take this stuff, break it off, just wad it up, put it in your coat pockets or something, and let your body heat just kind of dry it off, and that's going to work great for using as tinder. This is a great example of wood you really don't want to use whenever you're starting a fire that's using wet wood. You can see it's completely dead, but the problem with it is it's got all this spongy wood, which is great if you're wanting to make char out of it, but this is not going to work very well for starting a fire with wet wood. This is just going to hold moisture in. It's not going to work good at all. A great spot to find wood for your fire is high up in trees, branches and things that have caught in other branches that have fallen from further up. Like this right here, it's fallen from further up. But a good rule of thumb is if you can break it and you hear that snap, kind of like a fire crackling, like that, like that, like that. That this has good usable wood on the inside of it. You're just going to have to get to the dry wood that's on the inside of it. So what you can do whenever you get back to your area that you're going to be making your fire is you can actually just take your knife and just cut off all that wet wood until you get to the dry stuff in the middle. You can put it up to your cheek or your lips and tell if it's dry. That stuff is completely dry on the center, so that's a good piece. Look how foggy these woods are. Everything's completely soaked and drenched. I love coming to the woods on days like this. It's a huge pain in the butt to get a fire going, but it always makes you feel really good, like you've really accomplished something when you do it though. Alright, as you can see, I've gone ahead and I got a little platform made out of green wood here. And now I'm going to start a fire right on top of this. I'm just going to make a typical teepee fire and just start it right on top of it. That way it stays up off the wet ground. Right, here's our teepee. We got all our flammable material already in it. We got some pine sap added in with our pine needles. It's going to act as an extender. Now let's see if we can get us a fire going. Alright, something else you can do, you can see we got a piece of wet wood here. What you can do is you can just take your knife and just kind of baton through it. Just like that. You can see that wood in the center is bone dry. You can put it up to your lips or your cheek, find out if it's wet or not. That is completely dry. And you can also, if you're looking for more wood to add to your fire, you can just take it, baton it into several different sections. That wet bark's coming off, which is helpful. And you can just baton it into sections. You see that that side's still wet, so you can just baton that part off. You might have to do it a couple of times, but you can see that it's not as wet under it. Just take your knife and just cut it off. And just baton it again until you get some pencil-sized sticks. This is the whole reason I like having a knife that can baton, that's strong enough to baton with. I know a lot of people don't like it, but it's helped me out quite a bit. And once you've gotten to the center of that wood, you can just take your 90-degree spine here, the back of your blade. If you've got one, you're not good enough to have one, then you can just take it As you can see, I got quite a good sized little pile going. Now I could start a fire with this. You see me do that in past videos. But today, since we found that fat wood that we got off that pine tree, I'm just going to use it. I'm going to do the exact same thing as I did with the shavings. And I'm going to just shave it into that pile. It'll help take a flame a lot faster like that. Now you can see all the shavings I got mixed in with the resin from that piece of fat wood I got off the pine tree. Alright, next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to get a piece of bark or just something that you can use to transport your flame over to your fire setup so you can start your fire with it. So that's what we did. We just grabbed this and we're going to use this to carry our flame over to our setup. But now we're going to take the back of our blade with our ferro rod. This is all I'm going to be using. There we go. Fire started. Took a little longer than I kind of planned on it taking, but now we're just going to put it on our little spoon here, and we're going to carry it over to our setup. Fire's still going. Put it in here. Hopefully we get a fire going. Or a bigger fire going, I should say. Knocked part of it down. A few sticks. Take some more flammable material and just keep this thing going. I've just been stacking more and more onto it. I just kind of let it collapse on itself, and I've just been adding more and more firewood to it. Adding whatever I can as long as it's dry. Remember, as long as you hear that, sounds like that, then you've got good wood. At least on the inside. You may have to scrape off some of that bark. But a lot of this wood that I used to make this fire, most of it came from what we found under that log that had all the leaves and all the debris that had blown under it or fallen under it. There was a lot of sticks and a lot of dry stuff under there, guys. That's where I got most of the wood to start this. Got it built up to the point where I can throw logs on that's going to be as thick as my wrist. So that's a pretty good point to get it to. I'm just going to let this die out. After this burns out, I'm going to throw some water on it. Starting to lose some light, so I'm going to go ahead and finish this video up as quick as possible here. Well guys, that's pretty much it with how to start a fire in the rain. There's a lot of different materials you can use to help you start a fire in the rain, but you just need to remember how to get to the dry wood and where to find dry material. Just follow the tips that I showed you in the video, and it'll make it a lot easier finding material to start a fire in the rain. But I hope everybody learned something from this. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, leave any comments, and as always, keep your blade sharp, your mind sharper. See you next time. Thanks for watching.